All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Go ahead and call today's meeting of the School Building Committee to order. It is Monday, October 17th, 5:03 p.m. And go ahead and start with a roll call. Mr. Auvel? Mr. Devon? Chairwoman Fitzkeeger?
Here.
Ms. Hume?
Here.
Mayor Kokoris?
Here.
Superintendent Lee?
Here.
Mr. Spellman?
Here.
Ms. Cicello?
Here.
Great, and I am here. We've got everybody. Nice to see everybody today. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our meeting of September 19th, 2022. Everybody should have received a copy of these in their packet and had an opportunity for review. Any discussion or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Ooh, there's been a motion made by Councilor Hume, seconded by Mr. Devon. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great, thank you. That is unanimous. Moving right along to South Middle School. We've got Doug Murray with us and Mike Carroll offering an update today. I think, Doug, the floor is yours.
Good evening. After the meeting notes in your package is the dashboard, the monthly dashboard. As for things that are going on out there, we are pretty much wrapping up the upper level of the building. When I say wrapping up, we're getting the exterior sheathing on and the vapor barrier is going in. They've started to prep for weather protection going in, and they've started putting in glass. Well, not the glass, but the frames for the windows. So they are starting to enclose the building. Brick masonry started in the courtyard on Friday. They are planning on starting out by the main entry today or tomorrow. I guess it's tomorrow now because of the rain. In terms of work on site, we had the water line that was abandoned out from Peach Street got removed. We are installing the gas line. We're trenching for the gas line as we, today and this week. We started on Friday. They are finishing up the masonry, the concrete masonry down in the gym. The roof was put on the gym. So once we get that tightened up, they'll come back in and do the slabs on the lower levels. But slabs on the upper levels for general are poured. MEP rough-in continues, and they're flying right along. So we're on schedule. In terms of budget, we're still on budget. We've billed about 40% of the job to the contractor. We've spent about $408,000 in the change orders so far. So still doing well on contingency, which we'll come back to when we get to furniture and equipment. Milestones for the next month, I think, because of the onset of cold weather, weather protection, getting the building enclosed, getting set up, tenting for masonry if we need it. But you'll see a lot of brick going up and the windows going in. So from the outside, you'll start to see the building get tightened up. Inside, we're going to be doing mechanical, electrical, and plumbing rough-in for foreseeable months, a couple of months.
Does anybody have any questions for Doug on kind of where things are and where we're headed? Mr. Auvel.
Winter?
Yes.
Is it going to be protected?
They're going to tent it, yeah.
Okay.
If they, as they need to, depending on, when the temperature starts falling below 40 overnight, that's when we'll start, they got to protect it for 24 hours and let the mortar cure, that sort of thing.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Hume? Oh, Doug, just one second. Yep.
I know that when we toured it last meeting, the rain was of a help to keep the dust at bay. How about all this rain we've seen since? Has it done anything for delays or flooding or anything like that?
No delays so far, no flooding issues, nothing's come in from the community. We have the underground retention system in. I don't think it's actually functioning, but there's a retention basin at the back of the site up on the northeastern corner. That is functioning and holding water. So it's not finished construction yet, but it is there, and we haven't heard any rain problems so far. There's a big pile of dirt covered with crabgrass out there if anybody wants to stop by and see. So that is, you know, the water truck has been limited now because they haven't had to do anything. Last week, there was, you know, a couple tornadoes going, but nothing big. The next page after that is the budget. For commitments for this month that we're looking for acknowledgement, Bacon, change order number 4 in the amount of $62,961, and that's included on the following pages. There's some revisions, some credits we took on some things that changed, as well as some additional expenses due to changes in motorized shades, some coordination issues. We made some revisions to the residential appliances to accommodate accessibility. Some wood blocking on the roof for the RTUs, some kitchen lockers, a couple of steel items, and then some miscellaneous items for T-shirts for barbecues, and some temporary asphalt berm was an issue to keep water on the site, was flowing into a neighbor's yard. And then the big one there, the $17,000 one, 066, is testing of tar material from the east lot. When we were excavating for the east parking lot, we found loose soil, and as we dug up that loose soil, which we hadn't intended to do, we discovered that during one of the re-roofing jobs at some point, they must have dumped some tar, roofing tar into the ground and buried it in the back of the building. That's been excavated, it's put in drums right now, and we're going to be shipping it off-site to a recycling facility. And unfortunately, it's environmental, so it costs a lot of money. So that's Bacon's change order. Thayer fence, there was a tree fell from the school site onto a neighbor's fence. We had it repaired. And then Braintree Facilities Department for $33,886, and that was for the cost to relocate the modulars over to the Flaherty school. That was their budgets, which included rigging costs and things like that, which is all in the backup. So those are the 3 commitments for this month. Then the budget adjustments, obviously, the Bacon change order and the Braintree Facilities Department, that would be money taken from contingency, put it in the construction costs. And then the invoices at the bottom, Braintree Facilities, their fencing, our costs, which included some costs from Briggs for trusting, and Bacon's application for payment, and the cost of $4 million, $4,020,733, for a total payment this month of $4,115,417.12.
Does anybody have any questions for Doug about the budget summary or any of the items contained within the change order or the other 2 commitments? No? So seeing none, if I'm not mistaken, you'd be looking for a motion. We can do it as a package to acknowledge change orders in the amount of $97,568.12.
That's correct.
So we'd be looking for a motion to acknowledge. It's been a motion by Superintendent Lee. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Avil. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thank you.
Moving on, the next item of business is FF&E, which is the second package. As we discussed at the last meeting, a subcommittee was appointed to take a look at the existing school, as well as identify some value engineering from the program that was put together. I put a little summary together on the top. We had a couple of meetings. The survey occurred on October 4th. On the next following week, we reviewed it with the members of the subcommittee. At that point, we identified about $80,000 to $100,000 between reuse of equipment from the existing school and/or changes we could make to the program that was being bought. At that meeting, after knocking it around a couple times, it was decided that we would proceed with the bid package as is going forward and see because bids will be going out October 26th, and we'll be receiving those in mid-November. We have some time to take a look at it and see if we can identify anything else. But at this point, we're going to proceed with that, or recommendation of the subcommittee is to proceed with that process of just going out to bid with what we had. We did have another meeting last week. We had the furniture consultant had some vendors bring out some of the samples of the desks and student desks and chairs, cafeteria chairs, cafeteria tables, which were looked at and got some opinions from the staff and teachers at the school. Further back in the package, there's a listing of what the different equipment that was presented with the comments from each group. We selected, I listed, I don't know, 8 or 9 items there, but they did select, the student chair, the desks, cafeteria tables, stools, loose seating, lecterns, bench seating, activity tables, which were things that we had put up for comments. In general, it was felt that, what we were selecting was good quality or high quality materials and probably the best. The consultant did explain as we're going along why we would prefer one over the other. The chairs and the student chairs will be cantilever type. The desks will only come with a bag hook, not a tray underneath for books or anything like that. Cafeteria stools we're going to have that was shown without a seat back, and everybody was afraid kids were just going to fall over backwards, so we're going to get them with the stool backs. Cafeteria performance seating, there were two options presented that were felt most favorable. One was a fixed seat, and the other one was a folding chair that could be brought out for the performances. After we discussed it, it was felt that the fixed seat probably would be the best way to go. After the meeting, we double-checked to make sure we had the storage capacity for that. So that's the way we had proceeded with that one. And down the bottom, just some other notes. The KI line, which is what we picked for the desks, I guess, is a more vetted, they've been in business longer, more reliable. As we evaluate each one of these, as the bids come in and we evaluate, it's not only the supplier, but the distributor and the installer all get kind of evaluated as part of the process, because some of them, assembly is a charge, and other ones, if you go over a certain limit, the assembly is free, and it's installation, and so we have to review each one of those bids as they come in. So that's kind of where we are on FF&E. One other thing, there was about $450,000 of the estimated $1.4 million budget will be purchased through the CCP process through the state. Back about halfway through, there's this table which describes the CCP process. She has circled those who will be buying from, the suppliers will be buying from. And questions about do we get the best price and everything by not competitively bidding by going to this system. The state has already vetted the system, and then we are going to fall in, because of the size of the orders, we will be falling in the best category. So after discussions with the furniture equipment, they feel that this is still probably the best way to go and will give us the best bang for the buck. And so returning the $450,000 of that estimated $1.4 million will be done under that. So if we do see bid savings, it'll be on the other roughly $1 million of purchasing. But at this point, I think the subcommittee's recommendation was to go with bidding as we have at the $1.4 million and deal with it when we get to the receipt of bids.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Doug? I have a couple questions, Doug.
Okay.
So putting it out to bid at the full value, are we going to have the ability, I just want to make sure that once we've received the bids and are evaluating them kind of individually in actual form rather than hypothetically, we'll have the option to either not accept or not move forward with certain purchases at that time?
That is correct.
And then my only other question, just noticing, because we've talked a lot about furniture and kind of the school-related furniture, there's some floor cleaners in here. There's photos of those. Just making sure that there's a conversation had with the facilities division to make sure that when we're buying new ones, it's because we need them and there's a plan to actually utilize them in the schools with our own staff rather than using other contractors to do that kind of work.
Okay. All right.
Okay, does anybody? Okay.
All right. And the final item is just to update you on the IT procurement. We did check, the purchase order was issued. We did not get a confirmation of a delivery date yet. Obviously, we're a few months away from that, but the equipment that was ordered is in process, and we are going to begin, hopefully within the next week or so, have a meeting with the IT department again to go over the rest of the bidding package, and we'll be putting that one out hopefully by early January.
Great. Does anybody have any other questions with regards to South and where we are? No? Okay, great. Thank you, Doug. Okay. The next item on our agenda is the Hollis and Flaherty Accelerated Repair Projects. We've got Mike with us from PCA 360 to give us an update and looking for some kind of anticipatory approvals, I'll call them, which we can talk about when we get there. Thank you. Oh, good. Thank you. As someone who printed out the schedule on an 8.5 by 11, I appreciate the bigger size.
Actually, I've held it. Thanks for that. So schematic design report has been submitted to the MSBA, and we've had several calls with them. So everything's good there. The amendment 2 for BWA and our amendment mirror the 3011 that you've seen previously in the schematic design report. So we have the biggest thing here is the change is the schedule, which we reviewed in our last meeting. We can't really condense the schedule other than the approval process with Braintree. On our call, we identified about 2.5 months of approval times between interdepartment approvals. And what we agreed, which is extremely helpful to the schedule, is to approve these amendments contingent upon next Wednesday's MSBA board vote approval, as well as the town council vote for appropriating the funding. So both of those would effectively, contingent upon a yes vote at the MSBA, condense our schedule greatly. And the other two sections that would be helpful is I took time out of the bid award approval and the construction contract approval. If both of those can be done within a week, only the last 2 weeks of the 10-week construction period will be during September. And all of that work will be largely flashing and trim work. So the roof will be sealed. There may be 2 to 4 guys on the roof along with our clerk.
So as the committee might recall, we had talked the last time, one of the items that was outstanding for the MSBA vote next week was authorization to borrow the full value of the projects. We are relying in part on the $5 million that was approved through the debt exclusion, but the total project cost for these 2 roof replacements well exceeds not just what we expect the balance of that account to be, but also the total account, the total balance of that program. So last week, the Committee on Ways and Means met to review borrowing authorization of approximately $9.4 million, which is the absolute total project cost, including if we have to make any ADA improvements at either of the locations, funding which is not eligible for reimbursement from the MSBA. That came out of committee with unanimous favorable recommendation. Thank you to the superintendent who was there and helped field questions from the committee, and is expected to go before the full council tomorrow evening. There's a public hearing scheduled, so we expect to have a vote on that authorization as of the close of the meeting tomorrow. In attempting to kind of tighten the schedule a little bit and really make sure that we're not doing this work while kids are in school or trying to wait a full school year or until there's a break to allow us to do it, the thought we had was to take a look at the 2 contract amendments and contingent upon both the council's approval tomorrow of the funding, which is a necessary component for the MSBA, and then as approval from the MSBA at their board of directors meeting next week, we would be looking to the committee to review and potentially approve these materials so that we don't have to come back once those two essential items are in place in order to get approval and execute the contract. So that's kind of why we're coming preemptively on these items, but we think it'll have a real value on the back end and also eliminate the need to have, potentially multiple additional meetings to just address one-off kind of items. So if anybody has any questions for Mike on either of those two items on the agenda or the schedule. No? Okay. Seeing no questions, then we will take these one at a time. So looking for approval of the design contract amendment contingent on the town council approval of the borrowing authorization and the acceptance by the MSBA Board of Directors. Motion made by Mr. Avil. Is there a second? Seconded by Superintendent Lee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. And then looking for the same for the OPM contract amendment contingent upon a vote of the town council to authorize the full borrowing amount and a vote by the MSBA Board of Directors. Motion made by Chairwoman Fitzkeeger. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Sichello. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. That is unanimous. So thank you. I think that'll go a long way to help us kind of keep moving on a more expedited schedule, Mike. Thank you.
It helps an incredible amount.
Great.
That's a great idea.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? Or Mike, is there anything else about the projects?
No, everything's looking good. As I said, the MSBA board vote is next Wednesday, and we'll get going with DD work at that point, the following Monday. And then we have time to discuss it, but we're available for a call or anything when it comes time for bid award and construction contract approval. We're very available to anything that helps this committee expedite that approval process. If there's an in-depth meeting would be perhaps the best way to go about that.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thanks for coming over.
Thank you.
So the next item on our agenda is community questions. I don't see any members of the community, but I want to thank Principal McDonald's here, Principal Rainey. We've got Brian with us from MDS and Mike Carroll from Hill. So unless any of you folks have any community questions, we will move right along. Looking for our next meeting, which presumably will be in early November. So I'm going to suggest November 14th because anticipating that the week after that is Thanksgiving and folks might have plans to travel. The 14th. Oh, right, because the 11th is Veterans Day. Does the committee have a preference if we meet the Monday after a long weekend or the Monday before a long weekend? Doug or Mike, would we have any approvals that we would be looking for in November? So why don't we plan for the 21st then? Okay, so we'll do November 21st. We did? Oh, all right. November 5 o'clock. Is there a school committee meeting? 6:30. Okay, so we'll plan for November 21st at 5 o'clock here in Cahill Auditorium. Which reminds me, as always, to thank BCAM for being with us tonight and recording. We've got Wes Ray and Jerry Comack in the back. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. And with that, it brings us to the end of our agenda. So if there's nothing else, we'll take a motion to adjourn. It's been a motion made. Is there a second? Seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a happy Halloween.